All right, adventure families, we are wrapping up. And I don't use this word lightly, but it was an epic spring break. And we owe it hugely to the Rossmönster behind us, this off-road camper vehicle that we've been testing. And here's the context. We're a family of 4. Kids are 11 and 7. And this vehicle, drives 4, sleeps 4. The settee converts into a second bed. And we're going to talk about this in 2 segments, basically. So the driving experience. What's it like to drive this rig, get it places both on-road, on paved roads, on dirt roads, in the backcountry, which it was designed for. And then the living experience, being inside of it, what that means to take this level of accommodation with you to places where this level of accommodation really hasn't been available in many ways. So looking at the driving experience, it drives great. I feel like from the passenger side, it's pretty comfortable. Mm-hmm. So this trip, we're looking at probably 1,500 miles round trip, Boulder, Colorado, down I-70. First stop was Goblin Valley, where we had our first dispersed camping experience under a tree, and got to experience Goblin Valley, which is one of the most family-friendly parks, where we can sit up here in our chairs with our spy glasses, and the kids have walkie-talkies, and they're jabbering away, and they're down there amongst the hoodoos, finding Shea lounges and peekaboo windows and living the life. But this is what the Rossmönster was built for, was for getting to remote corners and remote campsites that, most hard-sided campers are not going to get to. Yes, these campsites have all been available to off-road specific vehicles that could have a rooftop tent, or you could take a backpacking tent or a small car camping tent and set yourself up out there and have that experience. But to take this hard-sided camper with you is a different ballgame. And even here at the Knolls campground where we are now, overlooking the Colorado River, last night was crazy windy. And yes, there's plenty of people here in tents that had to hunker down and be in their tent. And we were in the Rossmönster having dinner and just hanging out. Really didn't notice the wind at all. So we were able to, have an experience that was still enjoyable, comfortable, hopefully creating core memories for the kids and ourselves in that process. So that's what this provides. Now, elephant in the room, it is a privileged experience. The vehicle starts at, I think, $375,000. Rossmönster comes together and, they get the F-350 from Ford and then put their proprietary box on the back and they put it all together for you. This is the Baja Trail edition of the Rossmönster. Okay, back to the driving experience. Yeah, on-road, very comfortable. It drives like a truck. It is a truck, but I can't say that the weight it didn't feel top heavy. We drove through some pretty strong crosswinds and never felt super topsy-turvy or like there was any concern. Great at highway speeds, 80 miles an hour here in Utah. And yeah, and then obviously beautiful driving through the highways into the national parks and things like that, because from Goblin Valley we then started our off-road driving experience, and that's where this thing really shines. We drove the Wild Horse Road, which goes roughly from Goblin Valley basically to the north entrance of Reef National Park. Super fun. It was our one opportunity to ford a river. It was the Muddy Creek. We stopped there ahead of time though, and had a little charcuterie lunch that Jordan put together for us. Enjoyed the creek side, the river side, and then we're able to pack up and head out again there. So that was probably our only like off-roading for fun kind of experience. Oh, on the way down, I should mention we stopped at Hell's Backbone Grill, a delicious stop for dinner on our way down in Boulder, Utah, the other Boulder. And back up over the Hell's Backbone Road, which is a beautiful view, also a scenic drive. The rest of it was off-roading to get to a nice remote campsite. We took the infamous, now in our minds, Hole in the Rock Road from Escalante south down, and that thing was some of the worst washboard roads. Aside from a tank, you're probably gonna get rattled no matter what on a road like that. So, you know, it was not comfortable in this truck, but it was not as uncomfortable as it looked for many of the smaller non-off-road specific vehicles that were making their way very slowly down that road. But we got to the end, 80 miles of backcountry. Now, to be fair, it was only like the first 20 to 40 that was horrible washboard. Then it kind of ebbed out, and the last 5 miles to get to the end of the road became more rock crawly, slower going. Definitely want a high clearance vehicle. Those street specific vehicles were not going to go back there. In fact, the only vehicle we saw back there was another pickup truck. The kids and I hiked down to Lake Powell. And then coming back out, we hit Spooky and Peekaboo Canyons, some classic slot canyons, great for kiddos. They can there's some not technical in the like ropes and harnesses, but like, you know, stemming and understanding how to move through canyons. So good to just expect a lot of time on that. It's only like a 3.5 mile loop, but it takes a little bit, sometimes some mental and, you know, psychological challenges that come with getting through that space. So, you know, plan for that, but they've developed the parking lot there. It's changed a lot since the 10 years or so ago when I was there. And then we popped out of there. We took a little break at a place called Ofland, Escalante, just a campground RV space that has cabins and vintage Airstreams, kind of a cool spot. So if you're in Escalante, it's worth checking them out for a little respite. The kids could get in the pool, so a little bit of that vacation time and feel, even though we were having a primarily backcountry experience. All right, there we go. Willow Creek Road, just outside of Arches National Park. And it was just a beautiful sunset half a second ago. We got the kiddos running around. We have Arches National Park entrance.
Literally, we're so close.
Right there. And we're unpacking. Well, we're unfolding. To be fair, I never really put it in 4x4, but had there been other weather or circumstances you might need 4x4, but this truck managed just fine in 2-wheel drive, but it was the high clearance that made it possible. Popped into Arches, and that road was pretty fun. A little backcountry road. And I don't think the kids really appreciated it until we had to wait in line to get to Canyonlands, but I'm sure there was a line into Arches that has, you know, they got signs that say, half-hour wait from here, hour wait from here, and we just were able to drive right in and get that experience, do some hikes in Arches. And then what we were using, sort of part of the driving experience, was OnX Offroad. It's an app and off-road mapping system. They have a hunt version for hunters specifically. They have a backcountry ski version and hiking version of their mapping system. So check them out, OnX Maps. And the great thing about it for off-roading is if you have a CarPlay compatible device like this F350 does, you can use the OnX app on the CarPlay screen and be able to have your route mapped out there for you. We also used it for planning and determining where to go. Now, we did find some inconsistencies, and, you know, we'll write reviews to try and help with the crowdsourcing of information, but, you know, there's the classic green, blue, black sort of ski run style of beginner, intermediate, and advanced roads. And we picked a campsite that was on a green road, but it really felt more like a blue. There was some exposure. There was pretty rough roads. We had a lot of the like side-by-side, buggies come by, and it was really more of a road for that. But thank goodness the Rossmönster was designed, and the F350 could handle that. Again, the high clearance, and being able to get up in there and see that got us to a beautiful campsite, Gemini Bridges campsite, which was again another wonderful backcountry experience that, still accessible by other vehicles, but to have the accommodations that this offers with you, which I think is a good lead-in to the interior. And the kids are sleeping right now, so I'm not gonna go do an interior tour, but let's start with an exterior tour that will kind of cover the living experience as we transition out of the driving experience, and we'll, go ahead. What we've got here, let's have a look at that incredible ground clearance that I was talking about. Nice big tires, very easy to roll over. All the challenges that we had. So the business side, really over here on the driver's side. And then full cab. So again, I guess back to the driving experience. Super comfortable experience in the cab. The kids had lots of room in the back. Full-size adults would do just fine back there. Very spacious. Gas. This is the access for the toilet. There is a built-in toilet in here. I'll talk more about that on the inside, but this is where you pull the cartridge out to go empty it. Now you can use one of the, just camp provided toilets and just dump it in there to empty it out. Gemini Bridges Campground actually required, you bringing a toilet or a way to remove your own waste and not use the landscape there as a toilet. So that was good to be able to accommodate that. And again, it's part of what this rig offers. Over here we got shore power. We have an outdoor shower. Here you just plug in, there's a little spritzy hose that goes on there. Hot and cold water because there's a water heater built in. And then fresh water access right here. There's a 40-gallon internal tank inside so that I can keep it warm if you're in colder environments and that sort of thing. On the back, there are these panels here where you can attach different kinds of boxes. They do have a tall box. So like for skis, if you're doing that kind of adventuring, I'm sure there's a way to attach a bike rack, carry all the toys that you need to take with you, and then just kind of a standard box. Now, if this were my rig and I was configuring it for the way I was putting this together, for the way we're using it, I would look at wanting to get a box like that over on this side. That was kind of the business box. It would have, the hose that would help you fill your water tank. It would have the extension cord and the adapters for the shore power. It'd probably have the shower kit in it. I would also get levelers. That's one challenge that we ran into because we didn't have any levelers. There were certain places that we parked where we had to just adjust and repark the vehicle a few times to find that nice level so that it accommodated sleeping more comfortably. But I could see that going on the back here, and then maybe the tall box on the right side. For us, the tall box, probably use it for the camp chairs for this trip, because right now those are just being stored right in the walkway, the entrance to the Rossmönster there. Just real quick on the name, Rossmönster, started by Ross and a partner of his that pulled that together. And monster with those dots over the O, it's actually Swedish. Ross has Swedish heritage, and from what I understand, it translates roughly into like a design build connotation. So that's the connection there. Not meant to be like scary monster, but I think that it is a little bit of a monstery truck feel, and I think that, it all kind of works there. Anyway, more in the back, we've got the internal furnace exhaust there, and then some extra backup lights. And that, oh, and then up here, because you can't see out, the rear view mirror is not gonna work. You've got a rear view camera that is a digital rear view mirror, if you will. Acts like that so you can see what's going on behind you. And because of where we are here now, in camp mode, the way it works is you've got a 15 or so inch topper that rises up for when you're camping, and then when we drive, we drop that down, lowers that center of gravity, and again comes back to that very comfortable driving experience to get you to where you want to go. And the last of the outside bits, we got a 110 port here, external lights, and then back to the awning, which served us very well. So that's the outside walk around, the start of the drive experience, cover the drive experience, and then starting off on the living experience. And we're gonna let the kids wake up, get them some breakfast, get out, and then I can show you the inside. All right, so inside, after that beautiful sunrise in Rabbit Valley over there in western Colorado, we pretty much got dialed into getting the kids up, making breakfast, packing up, getting going. So we are actually home, back in Boulder, Colorado now, and we have emptied out and cleaned out the truck to give it back to Rossmönster because it was just a loan from them, and we thanked them for that opportunity. But, you know, washing all the sheets. Anyway, we're going to talk about interior living experience, you know, driving experience, living experience, and I think I have a few more driving experience things. I'll jump in the cab of the truck and we'll look at some things there after this. But we've got some great storage up behind those panels there. Little peekaboo windows out the front of the queen size bed here, reading lights, skylight, and these guys all come with either a screen or a blackout, and then that's got a little latch in there so you can pop that open if you want to get the fresh air. But it was nice being able to see some stars or the tops of the trees while we were in there. Now I'm like a 1/4 inch short of 6 feet tall, and when I lay on this bed I have like 3-ish inches. It felt like if my heels are touching the foot from my head, like I said, just a few inches. So I'm actually perfectly sized for this bed. So 5'11" and a bit is a good fit for me for this bed. And so there you go. Now the ladder to get up there, it also comes down and does like a it hooks down a little lower so it's easier to climb up. There's a little pass through to get through to the cab if by chance that's needed. I used this closet, which I had moved that stuff around. There's actually the shower head for the outside shower. Like I said, I'd put that on the outside box somewhere. There's all these plugs in here, USB-C, USB-A, standard American 110 volt plugs. Let's look in the bathroom. So this is, you know, a toilet and a shower, and we never used the shower. I would say that's pretty luxury and pretty, you'd have to be out for a while. We were out for a week, you know, so that was a good stint. But we stopped at that Ofland in Escalante and grabbed showers there. The kids, of course, were fascinated with the toilet, had to use that a few times just to get their curiosities resolved. But that was quickly assuaged when we said whoever uses it has to dump it. And they weren't very excited about that, so I think that helped a little bit. The whole interior, I should start here. This is the actuator for the roof, up and down. You have to press and hold for down and up. I think that's great for the down. I would argue that for the up, it would be really nice if there was a button in the cab. So like when you've parked, you've gotten there, you could hit the up button. You know, hopefully as you're driving into a space, you've checked the vertical and you know you're not going to bump into anything above it. But then by the time you come around to open the door and get in here, it's already been risen. It takes, it doesn't take a long time, so it's not a huge deal. But just one of the little things that, as you get time and experience in here, it's kind of the stuff that you would like to see, would be kind of nice to have just to fix things up. So there is a nice extension table here, and I did find it was possible to get through there, to get in and out of here. Induction stovetop worked great. I did discover that in the process. I couldn't have both burners going at full blast. I had the bacon cooking at one point and wanted to boil the kettle, and had to split the difference on those. So the fridge, it's empty now, but when it was full, we packed all 7 days worth of food in here. Now, to be fair, we did eat out a few times. Like I said, Hell's Backbone Grill in Boulder, dinner in Moab when we were passing through after our time in Arches. But I do believe we still had plenty of room for cold storage in the fridge. We used up here as pantries, kitchenwares, cleaning stuff. The one caveat that was very smart to mention was, don't put anything heavy or clunky up in here, because you have this glass, basically, induction top here, and if things have jostled and you open this without being ready to catch something, could fall and crack on there. So that's just a little bit user awareness. Back here, the settee, of course, this converted into the kids' bed and lounging time and things like that. A little swivel table, and then of course the tabletop is what goes down in there. Electrical under there. The 40-gallon freshwater tank is under here. The actuator, cutting board, sink, which did well. Microwave. And just lots of storage. Actually, we found we had really good amount of storage for what we needed. We got some more drawers over here. And I think that's pretty much it. So all the windows open. They do all have these clever dual shades. So, this is the screen. So if you want that open and there's bugs outside, you can still pop this up as a screen. And then this as a blackout. Definitely the trick about the screen is it's inside the glass, meaning if you've had that open and there's a bunch of bugs on here, now you want to close this window, you've got bugs in there, so it's a matter of just turning off the lights so they're not attracted to be in there, and then bumping them off or something. We didn't have a lot of bugs on this trip, so we didn't have to deal with that too much this time. Got a nice vent up there, and we use that pretty regularly. That's controlled electronically from, I should show you, the kind of master control here. Shows, your home screen, what's going on, power, fan, water tanks, light control, and then there's kind of a quick, I would do some rearranging here. I would get a few more buttons on this screen. I think there's more use there. I don't know if once an owner has this, if they're able to play around with that or not. And then the trick, and the reason why, going up is no big deal. You're not going to bump into anything unless, you're under a tree or something. Going down is the trick, and I do agree that you need to be standing there holding the button while it comes down, because these shelves all come down, under the microwave here. And you just want to make sure there's nothing underneath here that's tall that will catch it. One thing we had to watch for was we had a broom that we kept in here, and when this was up, the handle of the broom sat there, and if you didn't watch out, this would come down and grab that handle, and then you'd probably start prying on that and be likely to cause some damage. Maybe not irreparable, but always a bummer when things break. So that's the interior. We'll pop into the cab, wrap this up, and show you about more of the driving experience there. There is a little flap that will come down, but kids had lots of room. If you don't have kids, these seats fold up nicely and get out of the way. Jordan said she was very happy. She's actually pretty sensitive to sight lines and said this felt spacious and roomy and comfortable. All the touch points, where your elbow is sitting and whatnot, very soft and comfortable. Like I said, we came to just exactly 1,400 miles for this trip. I believe it was 36 hours. Oh, there's the OnX app. So 1,401 miles for the trip, 36 hours of drive time, where the tank is nearly empty, and we did about 12.9 miles per gallon for the trip. Obviously, that's its own calculation for that, but I found the mileage to empty to be pretty spot on. Like when we were driving back on the freeway, and the tank gave me an estimate of how much mileage we had left, and between the navigation and how far we had to go, I knew we had it varied between 30 and 60 miles, and now we're at 52 miles, and that just kind of depended on if we're going up or downhill. Anyway, here's a look at the cockpit console area. Nicely appointed, all the pieces that you need right there. And the control screen here, lots of options. Here's the 4x4 off-roading menus, so you can see pitch and roll, compass, elevation, and then there were other, you've got all kinds of things like that to look at, depending on what's important to you and what kind of driving you're doing. I should show you the light panel. That's one thing I forgot to mention on the outside as far as that goes. We did have one night that we were out a little later and got to see what that looks like all lit up, and it did very nicely illuminate out in front of us to see. But I think that wraps it up for the Rossmönster Baja Trail that we took on that week-long spring break vacation. Like I said, 1,400 miles, probably 300 of it dirt roads off of the pavement, and some of them pretty gnarly, and made not quite full use of the ground clearance. Not once did we hear ourselves scrape. We did see some spots where there were scrapes. I guess on another aspect of the driving experience, the brakes work great. So you think about the load that this adds to the vehicle, the whole box on the back. We were coming around a corner at arches, and there was a Jeep that had decided to do like a 3 or 5 point turnaround in the middle of the road. And we were able to stop very comfortably without slamming everybody forward in the cab. I guess the other thing to look at is the digital display, which has the wrong time on there, but it records. I guess if someone's tailgating you, I haven't played with a lot of those kinds of features to muck around with that. But, and we also used we tested a lot of other pieces of gear on this trip. I don't know that I'll do a separate video for that, but I will definitely do a written article listing a lot of the gear, giving some basic reviews on that gear. If you saw any gear in the video that is not on there that you're curious about, mention it in the comments. I think the best place for comments is going to be on the YouTube channel. If you're viewing it there, if you're viewing it embedded at the written article or the gear article, click through to the YouTube channel. Put your comments there and I'll try to answer those. I'll tag Rossmönster. If you have questions I can't answer, hopefully they'll be able to resolve any questions you have there about the truck and the box and everything else going on, any other technical details. They also have some great videos on their website of, kind of more nitty-gritty stuff about the vehicles if you really want to dig into the nuts and bolts. But other than that, thanks for checking it out. Stay tuned, we got more adventures coming. There will be a full written review of the trip and of the Rossmönster. Probably some other details that I realized I hadn't mentioned. Oh, like there's an air compressor built in, and you just carry some hoses. There's an attachment in the back of the vehicle. So if you have to deflate your tires for some off-roading or softer, terrain, you have your own air compressor so you can pump those back up. I don't think there's a gray water, lever to open the valve there, stuff like that. So I'll be able to edit all of that and throw that into the details of the full written review. Again, link to that will be in the description of on the YouTube channel of this video. So if you're watching this somewhere that's embedded, you can pop over there for comments and that sort of thing. Anyway, thanks again. Following along, off yondering with the family. We're just trying to provide insights to possibilities. It's not easy traveling with a family, but it's so worth it. It's so great seeing the kids get out there and have a chance to experience that. They loved doing the Junior Ranger program at the national parks. Thank you, national parks, for putting those together. Even Goblin Valley, a Utah state park, had a Junior Ranger program, and I'm sure that's probably true for many other state parks out there across the country. So with that, signing off, heading out. We're gonna shut down the truck. We take it back to Rossmönster here in the next day or two, and we'll see you on the next adventure where we'll be off yonder.